and they're going to be possessive in different ways. So we hope they like what we're doing with their beloved characters. But
So in my current work with Pirates of the Burning Sea, we are blessed to have a real sophisticated and civilized community. We're in closed beta right now, and we are just now seeing the what happens when you introduce the hardcore, civilized, sophisticate to the great, unwashed masses of MMO players who aren't as polite and aren't as civilized. And so that's kind of where we're at in that process. My background is working with the Matrix Online, and there were certainly some contentious fans there. So my experience is sort of in that arena. Currently, we've got we do tons of dev interaction. We are a company that truly is not afraid to get in and talk to our fans individually. How that may change and evolve as we get more people remains to be seen, but that's sort of the state of our game.
Okay. So as you can see, just like in any business, all of these community relations folks are coming at the same issue, the same set of issues from different places because their situations are different. So the first question I want to ask the panel, and we'll go in reverse order this time so I can make Troy talk twice in a row, is how do you, given the nature of your community, how did you or how do you get a community involved with your product early?
So it was really easy for us, and one of the decisions that were made before I actually arrived to Flying Lab was a user-created content program. And this was a program that allowed fans to create their own sail designs, their own flag designs, as well as their model their own 3D ships that we're using in the game. Some of the highest quality artwork. It's fantastic and phenomenal, and that was a very effective way to engage our community early on. Of course, people love pirates, and so we're really lucky as far as that goes. We were doing pirates before pirates became really cool. With our friends over at Disney, but yeah, really, we went out first, so there. But some of the other things that we do as well to engage our community is to identify some of those community leaders, and we created a group called the Boarding Party, aptly named, because what they do is support us at events. We actually will pay for their admission to conventions, and they will support us at the booth and become evangelists in that regard, which can be good and also a nightmare, but that's sort of some of the tactics that we've used to engage people early.
So for Cartoon Network, I haven't engaged any fans early, but I hope to soon. And then with Stargate, that was really easy. There are a lot of Stargate fans of the IP already, and just anybody that came to the site and forums early, especially the articulate ones and the ones that seemed passionate about the IP, I just latched onto them very early and asked them to moderate the forums for us, or asked them. I did a couple of offsites with MMO players who were also Stargate fans, and got their early feedback on game design. Sat down in a room with some devs. That was very cool. We did that a couple of times. For Myst, they were already very, very involved, and they had such a strong ownership, and they all had their idea of what they thought Uru should be. And what Ron and I were able to come up with was a really great way of getting early beta testers into the game to learn the game, and then as new players came in to the beta, they would greet these players, ask them if they wanted help. If they didn't, that was fine. But we were able to get them involved inside the game really early, and it built a really great sense of loyalty and trust with those
guys. Similar to Katie, with Marvel in particular, we have an engaged community from the moment we dropped that announcement. So now it is a function of supporting that and not letting that basically fizzle and die out once we're actually talking to them, once we're talking about the game, and making sure that our game is something they want to play. So in the early phases, obviously we'll be identifying who's coming to our site and who we can work with to make sure that we're spreading the word. They'll probably, in our case and probably in your case as well, probably like to also reach out to outside of traditional MMO world, to people who are engaged in the IP, haven't necessarily played computer games. That's a smaller goal, of course, but because obviously our built-in market is people already playing these games. But in that case, it's just making sure that you're continuing to support the interests that they have, making sure that you're living up to or better defining the expectations that they've already formed. As I told someone earlier today, people are already playing Marvel Universe Online. People are already playing Stargate Worlds, in their heads, and we have to make sure that as they play it before it's released, that we're sort of helping mold it to something that ultimately we ship. So, and just manage that expectation.
With Area Games, we're actually a fairly new company in the United States. Our parent company was well established, but they just had an idea. It was like, we're going to go to America. So we had really no time to prepare. It was within about a week we started building our community, and then a month later we launched. So it was very quick. We didn't have a lot of time to go in and build buzz for a year before the game actually came out. With our first title, Last Chaos. So we planned for a large portal site where we have lots of games in the future. But in the very beginning, we had to think about how do we get users? We haven't built ourselves as a brand yet. People don't really know about us. So we took all that into consideration, and we was like, well, services first. We have to talk to our people. So our CEO, he interacts with the players daily. I mean, he is always on the message boards. And actually every member, from the engineers to the graphic team to our interns. And then after talking to the players, like our first players that came to us, we want to give them stats. They're the first ones, so they've been built up to kind of they've been here since Alpha, so they get like special form titles and things like that. And it goes over really well because they stay a lot longer, and they seem to help us, and they help us grow the community because. I guess you could say status is something that helps sell something, and just the fact that the people do enjoy the role that they are seeing in the community as it grows, they really help us to continue to grow the community, and that's where we are now. We're still in the growing phase.
No. It's different from game to game and IP to IP. If you have an established IP, something that already has a fan base like Stargate, Marvel, or DC, you can start talking about a game much earlier. You can start talking to those people who already participate in that IP, and you're not necessarily talking about a game yet. With an IP that doesn't exist yet, say you're building something new, you have to wait until you have a game, until there's something to talk about. Sometimes people will latch onto a person or a vision, and they'll begin to follow that. So you announce you have a new studio with Bob the Builder as your great designer, and all the Bob the Builder fans jump on that bandwagon. That puts you in a really tough situation, as Victor was mentioning, because they have preconceived notions, they have expectations, and you may have to engage them earlier than you planned in order to manage those.
Good. The next question is one that, for a change, I absolutely want to hear what Alan has to say about it. Which is
you're going to hit me start.
No, actually no. What are the important milestones from a community relations perspective in the development of a game, from A to Z? What do you think are the important milestones?
Well, again, it varies by IP and product, but generally announcement is a big milestone, especially if it's an established IP. If it's DC Comics, you want to have something ready for announcement. When you open a web page is probably the big key fundamental milestone for community, though, because it's my belief that you want to have forums part and parcel with the web page launch and begin the conversations then. Alpha becomes another key milestone because often that's when you're going to identify your influencers, your early adopters, and your most hardcore evangelists. And those are the people that you need to take care of going into your beta. They're going to be the people hitting other forums, defending the game, defending your design decisions. And even at launch, they're going to be your evangelists out there on the sites like Zam.com promoting your game.
Very good.
Oh, and launch.
Yeah. Steven?
Yeah.
With Area, we license most of our games from Korea, Japan, Hungary. So we don't actually have the alpha and the beta phases other than the localization part. What we do have